Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concept Mixed Martial Arts Podcast, the show that covers everything mixed martial arts from UFC to Bellator to World Series of Fighting. We got you covered. I'm your host, Tate, and today I have Alex with me. And pretty much what we're going to be doing today is covering the month of April. We had a lot of really interesting fights, and we're just going to kind of just give an April recap. Kind of the month kind of started out with some, a pretty interesting fight with Junior dos Santos and Ben Rothwell. This was actually a really interesting fight. Did you get a chance to see that, Alex?
No, I missed this one, but I did catch the recap of it on SportsCenter that following night.
This was one of those fights where, I was actually looking at this and I was saying, Junior's kind of been sliding a lot, where once upon a time he was, in my opinion, without question, the best fighter in the heavyweight division, and then he kind of took a major slide.
Yeah, he wasn't really getting challenged much, and then all of a sudden the fights became a little bit more of a close. I mean, he beat him by unanimous decision, but it's 50-45, 50-45, 50-45. That's still kind of close compared to what he used to do.
Yes, but I kind of looked at it as like a situation where finally Junior got back on track, where actually he can kind of move back up the ladder and maybe trying to, make his way back to contending for the championship again. Mm-hmm. Especially, with the state of the heavyweight division right now kind of being in flux. With this win and and a couple more wins, Junior's right back in the mix of contending for the championship. So I thought that was a really good win for him, even though it was a closer fight.
Statistically, it won't show it was a naturally good win, but it was a good win for him.
It was a good win. I think he would have done a lot better with if it had been spectacular, like a spectacular knockout or submission. I think it would have really helped him, like kind of catapult him back at the top of the UFC. But as a whole, I thought it was a great shot for him to move up. But moving on through the month, then we had a situation where UFC on Fox, where Glover Teixeira and Rashad Evans. Now that fight,
that was a quick fight.
It was, man. I was actually thinking, when Rashad lost his comeback fight, I figured, Rashad's rusty. This was going to show the old Rashad Evans getting back in the swing of things. Actually going to show his dominance over Glover. But, Teixeira just came in there and just smashed him. I mean, he really smashed him. Rashad, if you see, I don't know if you saw the press conference, but Rashad was actually embarrassed over what happened there.
Yeah, he wasn't too happy with that. I wouldn't be either.
Yeah, and the sad thing, this is when you kind of know that you've been knocked out, or that you kind of lost your step. When Rashad came to, he looked at the referee and he was stunned, and he's like, "What happened?"
It's more of a confirmation, like, did I just get hit that hard?
Yeah, it's kind of like, what happened? He didn't realize that he got knocked out, that the fight was over. And, at this point, you have to start thinking about Rashad and say, is retirement next for him?
Yeah, after losing his comeback fight, he didn't have the same kind of fire he used to have, to me personally, and I definitely didn't see it in this fight at all. I mean, even if it would have went the full round one, he lost that round easily. And Glover just closed it out.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And when you think about Rashad has so much going on. He's he has the television gig, he has the gym, everything with the Black Zillions. He has a lot going on, and if a fighter like him, you don't want to see him go out where he's a shell of himself and he's getting knocked out like he did this one. But in the same note, this fight here really shows what Glover can do now, and Teixeira's right up there, and you got to start thinking about him as far as where does he rank and where is he's going to be at as far as, that championship picture. He's still down there a little ways, and there's a lot of cleaning up in that division, especially with with John Jones and Cormier, as long as if you look at the picture and you say if Jones comes back, and I know he just had his one fight, and some people were not that pleased with his results, but I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But when you look at Glover and you say, okay, I've picked off Rashad Evans, you got Rumble Johnson. I got to look at Glover right now and just say he's right behind. It would go Jones, Cormier, Rumble, Gustafsson, Teixeira, and I would love to see as Jones and Cormier are kind of finishing up their feud, which I don't know if that feud will ever end. There's some serious bad blood there. Oh, yeah. But you look around and you say, once that clears out, then you have Rumble sitting there waiting on the winner. I think right now a Teixeira Gustafsson fight, puts them in a really great place, especially if there's any scenario where Cormier beats Jones and they go to a third fight, and you're looking around, I think, kind of like a round robin where Teixeira, Gustafsson fight, the winner of that fights Rumble, and the winner of that actually rolls right into the winner of the trilogy between Jones and Cormier. But I don't see that. I actually see Jones coming in and actually taking care of Cormier. So, that's kind of a pipe dream in my opinion, but I could be wrong. But, just more or less just talking about the month in general. There was a number of other, decent fights. But, the biggest shocker of the month to me, of all the fights that shocked me the most, it was kind of heartbreaking. It was a little sad. It was Benson Henderson. Now, Benson making the big decision to leave the UFC and go into Bellator. I kind of took it as, that's kind of like, someone playing for, Major League Baseball and it's like, you know what? I'm going to go to the Dominican Republic and I'm going to become a baseball player. So I was expecting Benson to go in and just pretty much wreck shop and just, take over Bellator. And he goes in there, and the biggest mistake he made was going up to a weight division that, yes, he had a little success with that one fight. He should not have. I mean, personally, I don't think he should have ever went to that division whatsoever. But, to go into Bellator, he should have went in at the weight that he's been dominating for years. He walked in there, at a much higher weight class, and he got smashed. I mean, he got destroyed. He took a lot of knees. It was just, a brutal fight. I mean, and I don't know if you heard much about the fight or not, but what was your take? I know you've been kind of busy and kind of missing a few of these. So what was your take?
I know that Henderson was definitely the favorite going into that fight, especially coming from UFC over there to Bellator. And I missed the fight, but I did catch the recap, and I could say I was pretty kind of surprised to see how it turned out. I didn't expect it to go that way with him. I expected him to kind of, like you said, come in there and handle shop, kind of be the guy there, kind of come in and be the skill above the rest of the skill because he's coming from the more, I guess you could say, the better UFC, the more established. Yes. Thank you. And that was kind of like, I kind of compare it to the McGregor fight. He had a guy that came in last second. No one really expected him to win. And he had clearly a favorite and an underdog, and the underdog kind of came in and handled himself.
I can see that. Now, the big difference is, and I even when I go back and I think about this fight, I keep thinking about all the vicious knees that Benson just kept taking as he just took a massive pounding. His reputation, I don't know, can recover from that. Even when he goes back, he's gonna, with this loss, he's forced to go back down to his natural weight, where I think he'll dominate and I think he'll be a champion in Bellator. But because of the loss and the way he took the loss and the fanfare and the promotion behind the fact that he made the decision to leave the UFC and go to Bellator, I think this destroyed any momentum or any really hyped that Benson's going to have. And that's the one thing I was kind of happy about seeing Benson go to Bellator, was that he was finally going to get the promoting that he deserved. Because I never thought that Dana and the UFC really got behind him. And at one point in time, I looked at him as the third or fourth best fighter pound for pound in the UFC. And to see this kind of happen, it is kind of sad. But moving on, just a quick recap. But the month ending with what we were talking about before, Jones and OSP, and a lot of people are really, really down on Jones, and that Jones looked mortal or looked beatable, and Cormier was saying, man, I wish I'd have got in there and beat him. Be careful what you wish for. When I look at the Jones fight and you start learning more and more about what went on, you got to figure just a few weeks before he was supposed to be, before this fight, he was actually in jail. He was behind bars, not training, but actually in jail. Then you turn around, you take another situation. He gets out of jail. A couple of weeks, the week of the fight, his mom has, as in his words, is losing the battle with diabetes. And I take it from a guy who actually has diabetes. Diabetes is a vicious disease. And, the week of the fight, his mom is getting her leg removed. So he gets out of jail. His mom's getting her leg removed. He's fighting OSP, which is clearly one of the top 10 contenders in the light heavyweight division, on short notice. So there's not really a lot of real training. There's a lot of distractions. He's coming off a suspension. So there's a lot of pressure. And the fact of the matter is, he dominated that fight. There's not one round he lost on all the scorecards. What was Alex? What was the scores again?
50-44, 50-45, and 50-45 on unanimous decision.
So pretty much he won every round. The fourth round, he beat him so bad that I scored that a 10-8 round. If the round would have been any longer, it would have been, I think he would have pulled it out and it would have stopped him, and it would have been a totally different take on the true outcome of what people thought this fight was really all about. But with that being said, yes, short notice and everything, I look at things differently. I thought John Bones Jones proved that he was, is still pound for pound the king. And another note on that, UFC 197 is, I just want to take a quick second to mention Anthony Pettis. Anthony Pettis at one point in time was the king. I mean, he was the man that everyone thought was going to be, a champ for a long time. And Pettis, is this his third loss in a row? Pettis is falling off the rails. And I personally think sometimes when you start getting beat the way, you keep losing, sometimes you got to, take your pride, put it in a little box, stick it in the closet, and say, you know what? I need to go back to the drawing board. And this is something that the Showtime needs to do. Anthony Pettis needs to, check his pride and just say, you know what? I need to get me 2 or 3 wins, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to start fighting some guys that, kind of get his confidence back up and get back in the swing. Because he's definitely a young guy and can still contend, but he keeps losing like this, and you're going to hear about Anthony Pettis ended up in Bellator or some other, yeah, somewhere like that fighting. I mean, because he's losing and just making him look bad. But anyway, I just wanted to take a few minutes to come on here and talk about, the previous month and, and give my take. Guys, thank you for listening. Tune in next week as we prepare for, the upcoming fights, UFC 200. This week and every week on the Golden State Media Concepts, not fantasy, but I do fantasy football too sometimes, so I get a little twisted up. But the Golden State Media Concepts Mixed Martial Arts Podcast. Thank you. This is Tate and Alex. You guys have a good day.
Thank you.